but you know, when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
And difficulties just come in together. They
Yeah.
just when they, you know, suddenly you have periods of stability and peace
Calm.
and calm, and then all of a sudden you have to deal with hell.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me. I
Yeah.
went to hell and came back.
Shakira, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How you doing?
I'm well. Congratulations on the album. I really loved it.
Thank you so much. Really?
Yeah, I really did. I
that's
really love listening to
So great
it.
to hear. Thank you so much.
How are you feeling now that it's out?
Relieved, so happy reading the comments from my fans. Just so emotional about everything. I'm adrenalized and inspired to give them more, to go on tour, to meet them in person and just celebrate this moment. I've been waiting for this for so long. I've worked so hard on this album for months and months, and it just feels really great to see the recognition and to feel appreciated and valued as an artist. It's amazing. It's my fans have been there the whole time, every step of the way, accompanying me, injecting me with passion for what I do, sustaining me in bad times, celebrating me in good times, and I can't express how amazing my fans are with me. They've been so loyal and so noble, and they're everything to me. So I'm just so thankful, you know. Now that the album is out, it's not mine anymore; it's theirs, and
Yeah.
it's a great feeling.
It's a really beautiful album, and I want to talk a little bit about the construction behind it, because I can't think of an album I listened to that had so many different like genres of music on it. Yeah. You know, like there were moments of like pop and of course, you know, and dance music, but there's also these beautiful kind of moments of rock music. There's a sort of a great norteña moment. There's sort of that El Jefe really tune, which is sort of
like ska.
Yeah.
Ska, Mexican ska.
When you went
Afrobeat.
Afrobeat.
Reggaeton, ballads.
Keep going.
Yeah. May I?
Yeah.
Pop. Yeah.
How?
I think I ran out of genres.
how intentional was that when you were going into the making of this record? Like, did you know what you wanted to do stylistically? How did you choose that?
Nothing about this album is intentional. It's a conceptual album, but that was never the purpose. No one intends to go through the hardship and the difficult things that I went through when I was writing this, when I was raw, with a knife between my teeth, when I was licking my wounds. But you know, life gives you lemons and you make lemonade. And what I did is what I made is songs. I made songs, you know, and that's the way I healed through this process. And as I was, well, I'm still healing, but definitely these songs were a big part of that medicine. You know, they were writing the songs, creating these songs was the most therapeutic thing I found during these past months. And while I was creating them, I was just exploring and curious and experimenting and just enjoying my time in the studio, having this encounter with myself, rebuilding myself, and kind of getting to know a little bit more about myself, about my inner strength, of what I was able to do. So really the genres are just the genres that I experimented with are just a response, and every song had its demands, and every song told me and dictated to me at every single moment what I was supposed to do, and I just followed my instincts. I didn't really premeditate anything, or I don't believe in following formulas or in listening to record executives, you know, or paying attention to what's in right now, what's in style. I just follow my impulses. So that's how this album was made, out of impulses, out of the necessity, the compulsion to express myself, to elaborate intense emotions and feelings and anger and frustration and all of that. And it ended up being transformed into other things, you know?
What do you mean by the like you use the word medicine, like writing this music and creating this music became medicine for you? How does that work? What do you mean?
I think catharsis is the word. I was going through so many things that were so hard to deal with. I was in the mud, and I had to rebuild myself somehow. I had to pick up the pieces of myself, bone by bone,
Yeah.
put them together again.
Yeah.
And music was the glue. And in that process, my fans were there, my audience was there, understanding me, supporting me, giving me back my confidence, showing me that I was stronger than what I thought I was. I felt very weak at times. I felt very vulnerable at times. But then writing these songs, making this music, made me regain strength. And yeah, I remember when we were just remembering before how I started this whole process with the first song, Monotonia. I was torn. It was a huge effort for me to go in the studio and start working again.
Why?
Because I was literally walking like a zombie. I couldn't believe what was happening to me, what was happening with my life, how my dreams were all crumbling in front of my eyes. And the solution of a family is a pretty big deal. It's probably the most traumatic event, one of the most traumatic events of my entire life. And then added to that, I had all the losses and all the things that happened to me that I don't want to get into all that now. But when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
And difficulties just come in together. Just suddenly you have periods of stability and peace.
Calm.
And then all of a sudden you have to deal with hell.
Yeah.
So that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I went to hell and came back from it. And music, my ability to create music, and that artistic experience is what gave me. It was my salvation. It saved me. And knowing that I had fans out there, that was my safety net.
Yeah.
That was
people who would listen to you and love you.
Oh my God, my fans are the best fans in the whole world.
How did you feel? How did you feel when you actually wrote the songs? Like when you were writing these sort of very cathartic songs. When you were, I don't know what you do. If you write with a pen or on your phone or anything like that, or
on my phone sometimes. Sometimes I use the good old pen.
Yeah. What were the feelings you sort of had in your body and in your mind as these things were coming out? Do you know what I mean?
Different kind of feelings, because the road to healing is not linear.
Yeah.
There's valleys and peaks and curves and there are good days and bad days and there's ups and downs and it's a process. So each song tells different stories from different perspectives, from different they're all different kinds of emotions. But the important thing is that this album contains 16 songs that have a narrative and a language, but they're full of variants and dynamics. And there's moments of frustration and anger, and there's moments of celebration and triumph and and a newfound strength and celebrating that strength and resilience, and there's a little bit of everything,
Yeah, joy.
And so now that this album is out, it's a very personal album. And now that it's out, is like I said before, it's not mine anymore. It belongs to so many people that I know can feel represented in these songs that are that contain emotions that are universal. Because human suffering it's universal. It's prehistoric, and but also celebration and joy. It's part of all of that is part of human life.
I wanted to ask about Acrostico. I love that song almost more than any other song on the record.
Wow.
Can you tell people who are listening just who the? By the way, great collaborators
who are
on this
my two
record.
collaborators?
Yeah, because I got Cardi B on the record. It's great, and Karol G on the record. That's really good. Please tell people the collaborators
These
on
are
this
the
one.
best collaboration. This doesn't get better than that. These collaborators are my two sons. They were 8 and 10 when they participated in the song. It wasn't planned.
How did that happen?
I wrote this song for them, and it's in acrostic, which is it's like if you read it in I don't know for the English speakers,
That's
but
fine.
for the Spanish speakers, if you read it vertically,
Yeah.
you see the names of my sons, Milan and Sasha. That's
Oh,
an
lovely.
acrostic. So each letter, each letter of their names is the beginning of each sentence. First verse is Milan, and second verse is Sasha. That's why it's called acrostic.
That's beautiful.
Acrostico. But when they heard the song, they said, "Oh, Mom." They used to visit me in the studio and just hang out. And when they listened to the song, they said, "Mom, can we sing? Can?" They started to sing into the mic, and they sounded great. And they were like, "Can we be in the song?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. I had doubts about it, but they were like, please, you always told us that if we do something for ourselves and if we exploit our talents, that you would that is a good thing." And I said, yeah, I've always said that. So okay, record. They wanted to record. Then they wanted to be in the video. They wanted to play.
How did you feel? How did you feel when they were singing? How did you?
It's so special, so emotional. It's I'm telling you, it doesn't get better than that, than to see your own children singing and playing to a song that you wrote for them. It's the most special thing you can ever imagine.
Do you think ever about that they'll grow up and hear this record and hear themselves and you sing on that?
That's it. That's true. It's an immortalized moment, no? In which it's a moment in time. We've been through so much together.
Yeah, fair enough.
And but we've come out of it stronger, I think, more humane. And my kids are tremendously empathetic, perhaps because they had to face many things that maybe not all kids of their age have faced. And
it strikes me. Well, thanks for talking about that. Well, it strikes me that so they're like 11 and 9 now.
Now 11 and 9, yeah.
That's around the same age you were when you first started writing songs too.
That's true.
Is that right?
Yeah, I started writing songs when I was 8.
Yeah.
And
About your dad, right?
yeah, the first one was inspired by my dad, but not about him. They were imaginary songs and about imaginary, situations. And then, when I was 10, I started doing my first performances, making some money.
Yeah, nice.
Bought my first car when I was 15.
Come on.
With a fake license.
Where'd you get that?
Yeah.
Never mind. But hold on. When you were writing songs when you were a kid, did you get any idea that you were
No,
good?
but seriously, I was able to play. I played in every bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
And Sweet 16 party.
Yeah.
And every companies, internal companies parties, and they used to pay me, few dollars here, few dollars there, and pesos in that case.
Yeah.
And until I was able to save and buy my own car.
Pretty
When I was
good.
15, which was my dream. I just wanted to have a car.
Did you get did someone tell you like, hey, you're gifted, you're seeing music in a sort of a different way? Was there a moment where someone kind of said to you, hey, you might see music differently than everybody else?
My dad, when he listened to me singing in the car, when you go on road trips, and someone starts singing, and my dad started to sing, and I would follow, and he said, "Wow, listen listen to Shakira's voice. She has very potent, powerful voice. And I was like, potent, what does it mean? But it made me feel so special. And
That's beautiful.
My mom always injected a lot of trust in myself. My mom used to tell me, you can be president. You can be anything you want. President of Colombia if you want. I'm like, well, I don't know about president of Colombia, but she certainly made me feel that I was capable. And I try to do the same with my kids.
Well, what's interesting is that you ended up having so much more of an impact than your average musician. Like I remember, so I'm from, like we talked about before, I'm from Canada and like from a weird part of Canada.
This island in the middle of the Atlantic.
This made up island in the middle of the ocean. And so it was laundry service. It was Whenever Wherever. That was the song that kind of got me. Of course, that was the
Yeah,
But there was a girl in our town, like in our social group from Colombia.
Really?
And I remember when we were all dancing to
A Colombian girl in the middle of the Atlantic.
Yeah. She was very cold, and I remember we were
She was very cold.
she was very, very cold, and we were like all dancing to the song, and a song would play on the radio. We'd flip out and dance, and I remember her going like, "You guys don't even know. You don't even know Shakira. Like, I've been listening to her for like 10, 15
I know better than you.
Yeah, like, I have all of her albums before this English language stuff. And we were like, so it was really, I saw her at Mass. Like, she was talking about all that kind of stuff. And it really strikes me that, well, maybe I'll ask the question.
My Colombian fans are the best PRs.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah, oh my God.
To have all of that success and then to, at that point, switch to English for that record. Can you explain to me how much of a risk that felt like? Can you help me understand that?
That was nerve-wracking. I barely spoke English. I don't even ask me how I wrote an entire album in English. I did it. I remember reading Leonard Cohen.
Oh,
and
Canadian.
Yeah, Canadian. I was trying to understand how rhymes worked.
Do you remember what Leonard Cohen was?
Can you remind me?
Was it Suzanne takes you down? Was it So Long, Marianne?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
It's time we began to love
and I bought a book of Leonard Cohen's writing and lyrics, and
oh, cool.
And that helped me understand a lot about like rhymes, and I bought a thesaurus and an English-Spanish dictionary, and that's how I wrote Objection, which I remember was my first song in English.
That's a
and
good
it
song.
made it in the album. Yeah, I made it in the Laundry Service album. Then I did Underneath Your Clothes.
Beautiful song.
Whenever, Whatever. Yeah, but I remember it was like standing at in front of an abyss. It was so nerve-wracking, and there was some sort of vertigo, because it was a challenge, definitely an intellectual challenge. More than anything, I think it was an intellectual challenge. And back in the day, the industry was watched by the gatekeepers, the people who would decide what would make it into American radio and what wouldn't. They would decide, like not like today when people decide. It's like music is democratized, I think.
And
that's
today,
a huge advantage, and the Latin artists today are there's a lot of receptivity towards Latin artists. But when I first started out, there was a lot of prejudice, and people weren't that receptive. And not everyone was so receptive,
Well, they say that's because of you, right? Like those artists talk about you as being this ground.
Do they?
Yeah, I mean, you must know that. You must know they see you as a sort of.
Well, it felt at times that I was like out there in the desert. Beating rocks under the sun. It was hard work. I had to do a lot of convincing radio station directors, convincing record executives, convincing journalists. There was a lot of prejudice against Colombians, and the industry was dominated by by men in general. There weren't that many like female pop acts in Latin America, so it was. There were hard times, but that made it all the more interesting, I think, and challenging.
I think there's going to be a lot on you in the next little while of questions about everything in your personal life, and that's fine. But I hope you can take some time and just take some of in what you talk about your fans and how much your music means to them. but the incredible groundbreaking work you've done. Every single person I heard on this record, I thought, I don't really know if they would exist without Shakira, and there she is with them. I love the record so
you
much.
so
It's such a great joy to get a
much.
chance to talk to you.
Oh my God.
And thanks
I
for
really
having me.
enjoyed this time.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming all the way to meet with me and to listen to my music. I appreciate your feedback.